Pete the Greek, my brother.
When do we start? Like, did we start already?
We started already. Oh shit.
There we got Glover. Glover hates me right now, but we're gonna be friends again on the 7th.
There you go. Love, hate.
Even the
that's how it
Wu-Tangs.
is. That's how jiu-jitsu is, man. Yeah.
We spent every day together for 7 months, and there he is.
Yeah, right behind you. You can't lose him, man. He's everywhere. And he's on your back. God, man.
So honor to be here. You know, I hear so much about your gym, and you, of course, one of the first people to move to Brazil. Right when I moved to Brazil, they told me about you, and that's where we're at. So you were one of the first ones, I think, 96, 97. You're already in Brazil.
Yeah.
So you must have saw Hoist Gracie and said, I'm going.
Man, you know, it wasn't even Hoist Gracie. I just actually, Amal Easton, you know Amal Easton? So he was like my big brother. He was older. I was 18, you know.
How did you know Amal?
He's, we were from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh, he's from there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so there's a group in this restaurant. And so besides jiu-jitsu and like martial arts, that was the only other job I ever had. And so they were telling me about it. It took them some months, and I finally went and did a class. And this little guy armbarred me like 10 times. I was like, "What? Like, let's go again. Let's go again. Let's go again." And I just loved it so much that, you know, I never missed a class. And then of course I saw Hoist Gracie.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa, that's awesome," you know. And then Amal went to Brazil. He took me to some tournaments actually in California, and I was like, it just, you know, it really opened my mind up. But he went to Brazil and came back and started showing me all like another level of stuff, right? And I was like, okay, I want to go to Brazil too.
Nice.
And so then I went to Brazil, sold all my stuff, you know, and I read a book, that Think and Grow Rich book, you know, as well.
Which one?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Oh, I got you. Yep.
And wrote to my goals down and stuff. But yeah, what a crazy journny, huh?
Oh, so you're reading that book all the way back then?
Back in those days, yeah.
Whoa. And that's
As a
one of those.
teenager.
Yeah, that's one of those books where they talk about having mentors. That's how I was just with Higan Machado right now. Like, I don't even talk about jiu-jitsu with him, but I look at him as a mentor, and I just get to see how it is. It's very interesting to me. I make all my money off jiu-jitsu. I never did anything else in my life. I worked in some restaurants for family, but it's interesting for me to see the older generation, the ones that are still doing it, because I bet you Higgins never did anything else besides jiu-jitsu. So, you know, you see champions, they last 10, 15 years, but it's interesting for me to see, you know, once someone's older and can't even train hard and they're still in it. And so that's super important to me. I call those like a don. Like in boxing, my coach told me, he's in Mexico, and he was Oscar De La Hoya's first coach as a kid. He's like, Pete, you need a don. In Mexico, when you have a don as a coach, it's like a master of masters, a master's master. So it's important for me, because my coach passed away, to have some older guys, because Carlson for me was the best coach for me, but he's not here. And so I can't get another Carlson Gracie, but you know, I have a few older guys, so I go to my boxing coach. He's in Mexico. I got Higan over here. I got a few other ones. They're just like, it's interesting for me to see how people live off the sport their whole life. Because, you know, it's easy to be a champion and win the, well, not easy, but those couple of years when you're on top, that doesn't really interest me. I like to see, you know, once someone gets a little bit older, how do they stay in the game if they can't even fight hard anymore? You got to use your brain.
Right. You know, you mentioned Higan, you mentioned Carlson Gracie. What, you know, you trained like, you know, Gracie Barra, you trained like all over, you know, but you love like Carlson Gracie. And
well, it's because my first coach. It's something about it, like.
So what attracted you? What attracts you to these mentors, these coaches of yours, like your boxing coach?
Because I'm injured a little bit, so I got in 2 bad accidents. So I have 2 full disc replacements in my spine. So if I go around the youngest champion, not the youngest, like the current champions, they're going to be too much for me. They're going to want to spar hard and stuff. So these old guys have gems. They give me tips. There's a little tip here, a little tip there, and it goes a lot further than just some random move. So they'll give me some advice. Like they give you simple advice, the old guys, and they say, I'm not going to teach you too much because what am I going to show you tomorrow? So the new guys want to just blast you with information, but the old guys, they can say, you know what, Pete, just work on your distance a little bit, or get a little tighter. Just little things, and that's really important to me because
interesting. Because that's how from my experience, that's less is more.
Less is more, especially in a fight. When Carlson used to train these guys like MMA, Vale Tudo, he wouldn't like show them a class. He wouldn't put his hands up and this is what you do. No, he would let them train, and then he sees something and he would stop it. Stop. And he'd go there, fix it a little bit. And when you train with Carlson, when he told you to stop, you have to stop. You don't stop and get up no, you stop right where you're at. Like, paro, and you stop, stop. Then he just fix you, boom, boom, boom. And then you continue. That's how he would train the guys because if Carlson was training you, you're already a black belt. There's no way.
Right.
He's not going to show you how to do an armbar. He'll just tell you, pega o brazo, or something. He'll just say, go for the arm. That's enough. He's not going to tell you, grab the lapel. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And a fight's a fight. And that's what Carlson was telling me. He's like, Pete, the first time I met him, he's like, there's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Carlson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And I say, what's the difference? And he says, look, in a lot of their moves, there's 6 to 8 steps to off-balance someone. He says, in a real fight, you're going to get hit. So like his style of jiu-jitsu is it's like a 1, 2, 3. If you can't hit your move in a one, just like in boxing, is then you got to get up, distance, whatever. You're not going to sit there just firing off random attacks in a fight. So we try it like off balance the guy, sweep him. If that doesn't work, stand up, protect your face. And he told me, the guard just means one thing, that you can protect your face.
Constantly attacking, right? If that doesn't work, you reset, go again, 1, 2, and so you're always attacking.
Always boom, 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 boom. Not get him off balance. Get him to post, put his leg down, lift him in the air, put him in a one leg. It's too much because by that time you get hit. So, growing up, I never wanted to be a jiu-jitsu fighter. I wanted to fight in Pride Fighting Championships. That was my goal. And then when I got to Brazil, the team had split apart. So then I was kind of like, my coach told me, don't go to these guys, but you can go to everyone else. And it would have been easier to go to the other guys that left him. They wanted me.
So you went in 2000, right?
Yeah, 2000, right when the team split up. It's like I showed up.
The Brazilian top team, because all the guys got together and we're going to create another team from basically it was Carlson Gracie team.
Carlson was giving a lot of support to Vitor Belfort. At that time, Vitor was 19 years old. He was the greatest thing in the UFC. Like UFC was getting boring. And then you just show someone like a Vitor Belfort fight, like, oh my God. Till this day, we haven't seen a 19-year-old in the UFC like that. And so Carlson came over to LA and wanted to get Vitor because he's like, man, if Hoist can do that much, imagine what Vitor can do. Yeah. But then Vitor started getting, the thing is, when you're like celebrity and stuff like that, you're going to have women around you, you're going to have parties around you. You're going to have everyone telling you to leave your coach. So Carlson was too much for him. He went back to Brazil. But when he went back to Brazil, his team was fighting in Pride Fighting Championships. They were fighting in Abu Dhabi. And they started telling him, they started acting disrespectful. That's how fighters get. That's why I can't give too much attention to them, because what happens when I get old? They're just going to tell me, you're old, I'm young, and you suck. That's the mentality. So you always got it. That's why these older guys are interesting.
Entitlement, right? Entitlement, like, and if they win, let's say on grave, it depends, right? Who it is, right? But overall, and then if they lose, it's your fault, right?
Boxing's the same way. Yeah. It's like my boxing coach told me, he's like, Pete, look, after you raise a boxer from childhood, he's gonna get 3 pro fights, and then he's gone. He's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. He's gone. Because if he's good, they will take him.
The Don Kings
he's gone. There's nothing you can do. So you got to do it for the love, And if the guy's cool, maybe he comes back and hooks you up. But so that's why I like looking at boxing too, pro wrestling, but boxing, because anything that's going to happen in MMA has already been done in boxing. There's not even one MMA fighter even close to a legend of Mike Tyson. You know what I
Got
mean?
Mike Tyson, got the Mike Tyson paintings.
Yeah, nobody in MMA has experienced the ups and downs as him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's super interesting to me as well.
I got a Mike Tyson shirt on as well.
I'm trying to get my friend Shoney Carter. He's actually my neighbor in Chicago. Trying to get him on Mike Tyson's card. That actually might work out, and I'll corner him if we get it. But that's one of the things we're working on right now.
Shoney Carter, man. How many fights did he do?
He'll fight anyone,
He did like
anytime.
100 fights, right? 100 MMA fights at least. That's MMA fights.
Yeah, he goes around the bus by my house with all of his MMA gear on, and he's ready to fight anyone, anytime, and not with animosity. He'll just do it.
Yeah. How old is he now?
I'd say he's 10 years older than me. I know him since I'm like 9 years old.
In his 50s.
He's about 52, 53.
Wow.
And I talk to him too, believe it or not, a lot. I call him like once a month just to see, you know, what's up with Shoney Carter.
What was his nickname? His fight name?
He's like some type of pimp. He does like pimp slaps.
Right.
And but Shoney's cool.
That. Yeah. That's crazy.
And I just seen Small World with Jiu-Jitsu. So I was at the Combat Jiu-Jitsu with Eddie Bravo in Mexico. I was in Cancun last month, and this little girl that used to train with Shoney, they would be our rivals. Her name's Pearl Gonzalez. And she had just fought in the combat. It's such a small world. So we come all the way from Chicago, just like you and Amal coming from New Mexico. And now you guys, I had no idea he's from there. All I know is if you go to Colorado, that's the school to be at.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
like Easton.
BJJ, yeah.
Everywhere you go.
No
like
doubt.
the other ones somehow are related to him. But he's
For sure.
at Colorado. And I know Amal, he's cool. And jiu-jitsu overall, I think people are getting nicer because our group is getting smaller. So crazy. Like, it was almost, jiu-jitsu is getting to the point so mainstream where it was too much. Now it's back to, like, if people come into your school right now, they really want to learn. There is no, I'm just joining to check it out. No, they know
They did their research, right?
They do their research. I mean, there's no random people walking into gyms these days with COVID. So, like, if someone comes in, they know what they want. And your school is great. Like, even in the sunlight, you come in there, you can feel the energy great. Like, if you put plants down there, they're going to grow good. And a lot of things have to do with sunlight. Like, I'm Greek, so I know a lot about business. I know so much about business, I hate it. But, like, there's certain things in business where you can have a dead spot where, like, in Chicago, for example, I can drive by a restaurant that used to be there, like a dead spot, and no matter what anyone puts there, it's always going to fail.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with sunlight. So, like, example, there are no dead spots if when the sun's coming down and the sun's setting and the sun's beaming right on your spot. It has a lot to do with a lot. Like, even the sun's watching you. So, like, these are little things. And I have a school in Chicago, but my school is about 8 blocks from Lightfoot's house. She's one of the leaders of all this mask stuff.
The mayor, right?
Yeah, she's right there. Like, I could ride to her house on my bicycle in like 6 minutes. So, you know, my school's going on, but we can't really market.
Right.
And it's cool. And I travel a lot. You know, I got into jiu-jitsu. I'm from a small town. Not much going on. And jiu-jitsu has given me a life.
Where are you from?
Like Chicago.
Chicago.
I just call it a small town. No, because we know everyone. It's small. Yeah. They call it Chi-Town for a reason, because you're going to bump into everyone everywhere. Chicago's cool, but it's Chicago's Chicago. You just Google it. It's like going to a roulette table at times.
I mean, it's so random, right? Like Adam Radzovic was here from, like yesterday, just randomly.
Random. And I was telling his friend, I'm like, hey, when's Adam coming? He's like, what are you talking about? And then like an hour later, we find out Adam's a great guy. He runs his school really good. Been friends with him. I met him in Brazil. So that goes back to Hegan. Back when I lived in Brazil, Carlos Gracie Jr. started a thing called Gracie Camp. And I had lived there. I spoke Portuguese. And like, hey, come work with me. So I said, okay. And I was like the chaperone for the camp.
That was Carlos Gracie, right?
Carlos Gracie. It was
Carlos.
Gracie Barra.
Yeah, right.
I trained at Gracie Barra too for 2 years because when a team split up.
Yeah, that's because I saw your pictures and stuff. I was like, oh, that looks like Gracie, because I was already back pretty much in the U.S. at that point.
Yeah, I went to Gracie Barra, and how did I end up there? Let's think about this. Oh, yeah, so I have a friend, Casio Cardozo. He's a guy that's really good at jiu-jitsu. He's one of the best ones of Carlson before he taught Murillo Bustamante. So that's like, he's old school and he's good. And I used to go over there and do private lessons at his house. And I show up there and he just looked at me and he goes, and I used to take the bus from Copacabana, so it was like 45, 50 minutes bus ride, get over there to Baja. And I show up there and he's just like, you know what, Pete, go home. I don't want to teach you anymore. I'm like, all right. I was like, fuck. Like, you know, because he's so badass. Sometimes the best people, they're like that. They're just like, look, dude, I taught you like every day for like a month. Get out of here. I need my rest. And I respect that. And so I'm like, cool. He was making me stronger. And so then he lived right across the street from Gracie Barra. And I never walked in there. All I knew was, like, growing up, my coach would tell me, like, Carlson Jr., he's like, be careful when you compete in Gracie Barra, because if you don't submit them, they're going to cheat. And like, and I'd been to the Pan Ams twice, and I got cheated twice. And so I walked up there, and I didn't know what to think. I was like, fuck. I was like, I walked up those stairs. I was like, I felt like I was walking to enemy territory. And then I go in there, and Carlinos and Igor Gracie, they remembered me from the Pan Ams. Like, Pete, they knew my name and everything. Like, come on over. And I walked over there, and they're like, look, you can train here. I'm like, look, I have the Brazilian Championships next week. I don't want to train here until, like, we finish that. And then I'll come over. And I went to the Brazilian Championships, and I was 100 grams over to, it was at, I don't know, it was at the boat club, yacht club. And I was 100 grams over. And I wanted to go take off my underwear and come back. And like, no, disqualified. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, screw this. I'm like, being a gringo, and because BJ Penn had just won the Worlds right before I showed up.
I see.
So they were anti.
That depends. They had the rules, right? They were pretty strict.
Yeah, so, yeah, of course. Super,
they were getting more organized, right?
It was my fault. It was my fault. I'm just like, I didn't care because it made me better because I wasn't an active competitor. Like, so I showed up there, I didn't compete, and then I became like full-fledged Gracie Barra because Carlinos is like rolling with me. He only rolled with me and Roger. So it's so cool. And then like the kids would get mad. They'd be like, why does he train with you? I'm like, because my coach is his oldest brother. I'm like, know your history. Don't be mad at me, dude.
I mean, they were together, right?
That's his oldest brother. And I'm like,
they had the gym together when Holes died.
All that stuff. So it's
Did he ever tell you any stories?
No.
About each other? Like Carlson, about Carlos Gracie Jr., Carlos Gracie Jr.?
Not too much. Carlson. Just always respectful. They were happy. They're just like...
You would think because, we're like rivals, right? Because I was Gracie Barra always. Yeah. And you were like... You always competed against Carlson. Like you
Carlson would always talk shit. Yeah. Like, and I was always right next to him, so it was weird. He'd be like, screw you. And then I would just be standing there like, hey, man, it's Carlson. I can't say anything. Like,
well, you said, right? They said, like, careful because they'll cheat you out of, like that.
Yeah, that type
there was a rivalry,
It was
right?
a good rivalry, though.
No, it was good. Now, when he passed away, like, there's nothing but respect, like love. Like, everybody missing him. Like, even though we're on the other teams, all the elders, that grew up with him, right? They were like...
He had to do that, I have a picture of Carlson's mom. A guy from Japan actually has a lot of stuff, and Junior never even saw his grandma. Carlson never had a picture of his photo of his mama. He had one, but when she died, I think she died of tuberculosis.
Oh, wow.
And the next wife got rid of all the pictures of his mom. So, like, his mom is the mom of Henzo's dad, and Carlson. They have the same mama. I think those are the only two.
It's Carlson and who else?
Hobson.
And Hobson. Oh, okay.
Their mama.
Oh, wow.
And so, so that was that. I got the picture.
That's interesting, huh?
They got a lot of stuff in Japan.
They're like the most MMA.
Because their mom was tough. The grandma's tough. She looked just like Carlson, but a woman. I swear to God, I got the picture.
God.
So in Japan,
you got to show it to me.
I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so in Japan, they have Carlson's fights. They got everything. These guys. Because I think it was like French television or something that was recording them. Carlson had all of his fights but they got lost in the Gracie mansion by the cleaning lady stole them all. Like all of his stuff. Like, don't think it was that long ago. They have every one of his fights, and they're badass. And
I had a bunch of footage of mine, and I gave it to somebody to make a documentary.
It goes gone,
and he disappeared, man.
That's what it. They're
and I bet you know how hard it was to have footage, VHS tapes, stuff.
They steal it. Yeah. They hold on to it, but in Japan, they have everything, dude. I don't know how. Like, I told the guy in Japan, I'm like, I heard Carlson told me the first time he ever taught a class, he was 3 years old. It was a self-defense seminar with his dad. He did it in front of a big group of people.
Wow.
They have this video in Japan. I told the guys, I'm like, hey, maybe you ever, they're like, yeah, I saw that video. How do they have all this? But they have it all. And I think in order for me to see it, I have to go there. Like, they're not going to send it. I don't even think they want to deal with the Gracie family because it's like mob shit. Oh, sorry. But, like,
okay, sure.
How are you going to tell the Gracies, like, oh, you can't have your footage? It's too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get pissed. So, like, someone like me, they could show me a couple of clips. I'll be happy and go on my way. I'm not going to be like, give me the stuff.
You can
I'm happy.
Screen share. I'm not screen share. What do you call that? Well, you can screen record, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm
just you grab your iPhone and just play it, and then just record it on your phone. You got it then.
That's it. Like, I tell you, I could pick up styles
but
quick.
That stuff's like the last few years, right? We didn't have that 10 years ago.
Yeah. So Carlson never saw a picture of his mom since he was a child. I wish I could have showed it to him. And like, here's a picture of me and
I didn't know that.
This is Carlinhos and
yeah, that's the one I actually saw. I think that's at Gracie camp, right?
Gracie
I see
camp.
the walls.
And so Adam Redzovic had come over, and he had. I think they're only supposed to come a few days. It was Adam, his brother, and his cousin. They're from Chicago, and they were in. I think they were in Hoist Gracie Association, and they switched to Kaique, and they'd shown up to Brazil. I was pretty cool at that point. I spoke Portuguese perfect. And Carlinhos says to me, you know, Pete, I'm thinking about starting Gracie Barra in the United States. And these guys were like kind of like my rivals in Chicago, kind of. Like, I don't really have rivals, but you know what I mean? Like, I was from Carlson. They had their Hoist school. So most of the times back then, people would badmouth people. Like, oh, no, I don't like them. And Carlinhos says to me, what do you think about these kids? I'm like, look, they have a good family. You know, I know them. Start it with them. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, the first Gracie Barra started in the United States. That was them.
Oh, really? Chicago?
It's because of me.
Oh, wow.
And I put it together because I could easily been a hater. You know, in the jiu-jitsu community, people talk a lot of shit. Imagine someone comes up to a Carlson guy, Carlinhos says, you know, hey, Pete, what do you think about these guys? And they're from my city.
Yeah.
Their gym's like close by our gym. I'm like, no, man. I told them what I exactly thought. These are good people.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting screwed over or whatever that they're doing. And I think you'll be great with them. And then, bam,
boom.
Carlinhos put it. That's why Carlinhos likes me a lot because I get along good with Carlinhos.
Yeah, I get along too with him. He's always taking care of me. Weigh-ins and not weigh-ins, but just whatever.
He'll talk about you a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he always like watched out for me and respected me.
All the guys
was proud of me. Like, I remember when we won like one of the Brasileiros, the team Brasileiro,
and you were on the team.
Yeah, I was on the team. It was the first time that the lightweight team for Gracie Barra purple belt won. You know, it was the first time we won. And it was because of me, and
I was on the purple belt team too for Gracie Barra. It was an honor because to be on the A team is tough.
Yeah. And then later on, right? I was Draculino's team won. It was the first team at black belt. It was the first team outside of Rio de Janeiro to win.
You guys have the best team outside of Rio for sure.
Yeah, but just that, even those early days, and I remember him like, kind of like a dad, right? Like giving you the nod, like
spider guards.
Yeah,
that's a spider guard master. I lost to Romo Bahal 2003. It was our third place match. I got third place. He got first place. It was Pan Am Absolutes.
Oh wow.
And And I remember, like, for me to win, whenever I won, I would get battle scarred. I'd be taped up, bleeding, just like now. You know, I got this.
You branches. You read today?
Always.
This morning, you're bleeding all over the Uber.
After my third fight in any tournament,
you look like Dan Gable.
I'm getting taped up, and I remember looking at Romo, but how it was me and Carlson. And I looked at him, and he just looked brand new. He had like 4 fights, not even a scratch. I was just like...
He didn't even break a sweat yet.
He didn't break a sweat yet. And I think he was a little bigger than me. I was medium weight, and he was probably like, I don't know, medium.
Middle heavy, yeah. Middle heavy. Usually, yeah.
But a big one.
Yeah.
And I put him right in X guard. I used to X guard sweep everybody. Well, it wasn't called X guard back then. It was called... I don't know, joga fora de lixo, something like that, like throw out the trash. Yeah. That one. So I always would do that, come up. I didn't X my legs. I would kick it away and come up. And as I'm coming up, he put his thumb in, and I'm coming up halfway, and he choked me out. I never been cross-choked from being in my X guard in my life. And I couldn't get mad at that. I was like, damn, that's a badass, you know? And then I think he just smoked everyone. And then he became like the best black belt. I lost to him before, and
yeah, he got into he's the Hall of Fame.
The year before, or a couple years before, I lost in the 5th match of the Worlds to Braulio Steam Up. But that was a weird match. I could have won that one. I don't get mad. I hate when people lose and they get mad. It's like so annoying. Like even if they rip you off, just have a smile on your face. Who cares? You get another chance. Because when you look mad like that, I think it shows weakness.
Yeah, you've always been cool. Like that's why I think that's why people like you, right? Because you're always like, you know, you're good, but you're a good person, right?
I could have been world champion a few times in Brazil, but it was hard because I can't submit everyone. My style is not a submission game. My style is like, I'm able to stop people's games past their guard, and then I try to wrist lock them. And if I can't do that, I'm probably not going to look. I have good sweeps too. So I'm half guard, passing a guard, but it's not exciting to watch. It's not like Glover. I put a lot of pressure on
What a crazy jiu-jitsu game.
He puts no pressure. So like what he does.
Talk about flow, you know? Talk about flow.
He transitions well. I think he transitions and moves good. The other day we went to Ato's training with Galvão. Galvão knows how to transition good too, I think because he trains with the Rotolo brothers so much. I'm going to see them today. I'm going there next.
Have them, man.
I'll talk to
them.
Put
us in touch.
So, example, like for me being injured, I still train as much as possible. I don't like competing, but I make friends with the best of the new school, like the youngest ones, and the best of the old schoolers. And then everyone in between are my homies, like you know what I mean? Like, the people from we're all on the same path right now. We're just trying to do our best.
Man, I want to go back. We started out talking about you love, like your mentors, like people that they're maybe a little bit older or whatever, but they live from jiu-jitsu. Like, what are the qualities that like allow them to have, like, people want to be around them, like what are the qualities that you...
Higan puts people on offense a lot. Like, example, he doesn't put them on defense. A lot of black belts like to put people on defense.
But like you're saying, like they live from jiu-jitsu even though they're not the toughest guy in the world anymore, right?
He's good at mentoring. Like he can help people believe in themselves. Like, so example,
the mental aspect.
Like I come from an ice hockey family. I have cousins that are NHL Hall of Famers. And like, so example, putting someone on offense would be, putting the puck like kind of close to the net and like patting them on the back and like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And they skate and shoot it and they score and they're like, ah. Putting someone on defense would be like, hey, you suck. I'm the black belt, man. You don't know how to shoot the puck. A lot of people do that to people. So I think in order to be like older and cool, you have to be able to put people on offense a lot. Because once you throw them on defense, they're going to split apart. 2 people are defending.
They put up the walls and they don't reach their potential.
A lot of jiu-jitsu does that. They want to put you on defense right away. You're just like, okay, I'm on defense. Now what do you want from me? But we're jiu-jitsu fighters. You put me on defense too much, I'm going to attack you. And so it's not healthy. So I see these older guys, they're able to put people, if they like you. If they don't like you, they won't even talk to you.
Of course.
Like Hegan, for example, he's very hard to get a hold of. BJ Penn, for example, very hard to get a hold of. These type of people, like that I'm talking about, you have to show up. And if they're there, they're there. But usually they'll be there if they're your friends.
Yeah.
And if they're not there, they're not there. But I've never had a chance where I show up to someone and they're not there. Like I wanted to see Adam.
Yeah,
he was right here. Yeah. I think that we're all related, like we're a family.
Yeah.
Like they say like this, like it kind of, I'm not talking about people, what belongs to me as far as people, but they say like, whatever belongs to you in the universe will find you. You don't have to look for it. So it's kind of like all of us, like maybe we were friends before, who knows, but the common denominator is the jiu-jitsu, because without the jiu-jitsu, we wouldn't be able to find each other. It's kind of like the real, like when people look for their DNA when they put it in, like you don't have to do that if you do jiu-jitsu because you already know who your friends are. Only certain types of people like to feel like that. I mean, you know, we feel when we go home and like we like that feeling. And then growing up, I'm saying not that we're older, but when we're like 16, 20, 25, the way that our bodies feel at night, regular people can't do that. Like we go to bed like we know how to fix ourselves. We learn how to become master healers. Like the first thing you learn jiu-jitsu after your black belt, I think, is you become a master healer. You learn how to heal yourself. You have to.
Yeah, at a certain, you know, to keep, I think it's the mindset, right? That it trains your mindset. You know, like that's why the tackfoot stuff that I've been doing is so like, because nobody, like I feel like taught me, nobody's, you know, nobody learned, all my black belt friends, you know. So that part, that yin and the yang, you know, like the Mr. Miyagi, like, you know, rubbing his hands together and, you know, healing, you know, Danielson's shoulders, you know, or whatever it was hurt.
Of course.
And the Karate Kid, like that stuff was never really taught to us, but for sure the mindset, and the mindset is so much of us being able to keep going, right? No matter what, you know, you get beat up or, you know, but you keep pushing forward, keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
To do what you want to do.
Yeah,
I think that's everything, right? That's everything.
It's everything.
But, you know, at a certain point, you're going to stop, right? And, like, then you're like, oh, man, I can't walk. Oh, I can't.
It's all in our head.
Yeah.
Everything's in our head.
It is pretty much, you know. It is pretty much.
That's my boxing coach told me. He's like, even if I punch you in the liver right now, it's all in your head. It's all in your head.
It's true.
And so
it's how your body, it's how you respond to it, right? How your body responds to it. Even though, say, Mike Tyson punching in the liver.
It's in our head. It's in our head.
Yeah. If you can, depends how you deal with it, right?
It's in our head. So like,
or your nervous system reacts to it.
Look at Mike Tyson. He's able to make this whole comeback and everything. Why? Because his brain, not because his muscles.
It's so ingrained in him, huh?
He said to himself, I need to do this. And what's funny right now is with the pandemic coming down, you're getting all these old warriors waking up. Like I'm looking way better now in what they think is the worst times of our life.
Yeah.
So I think this type of deal is awake. Like you look at Hegan right now, he looks good.
Yeah.
This is the best I've seen him in like 15 years.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason we all learn this jiu-jitsu. It's not for the medals. It's not just to teach people. It's about survival.
Way of life. Yes.
We can survive. There's no way not. Like black belt in jiu-jitsu, survival. And that's when I travel a lot of places. Like I'm in cool places, and a lot of times there's like beautiful women around me and stuff, and I know their boyfriend's right there sitting watching. I know he owns a place, but I don't care. I'm not going to hit on her because I'm a black belt. I don't need to. I'm a black belt. That's why they trust me. I don't need to do any of that. Why? Because I'm a black belt's black belt. I can get what I want if I want it. Just put it in my head, because we learn leverage. We learn to get what we want. And the last thing I want
discipline
is just like, that's why I have a good life. People trust me. I can go, I have routes. Like I have Tony D'Souza. He doesn't leave his Inca territory. I got Glover. He pretty much doesn't leave California, but I'm a little bit different. I'm on the road all the time.
You're living in Mexico right now, right?
I live everywhere. I go wherever the vibe's good. Like, example, how do I know if the vibe's good? When I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, where I'm at right now, I lose things all the time. I don't know if I got hit in the head too much. I don't know. But I lose things all the time. I lost my keys. And like my rule of thumb is like if I'm at a place and I lose things, they're gonna return it to me. I lost my keys 3 times. People on the beach, they return it to the bar, they see it. And same thing in Brazil. I lose things all the time. I get excited, I start thinking about moves, I lose things, and if I'm in a bad place, they're not gonna return it to me, and I'll leave. But I like losing things places because if they return it to you, you know how Brazil is. Come on, man. I used to walk around Mexico with a cane and a walker after my back surgeries. Sometimes you put the cane down, you forget it. You know, I'm not used to walking with a cane. I'll just forget it, and people return it. I lost the second day there. I was in Tijuana, Mexico. I was living with Glover. It's not right for me to live with him and his girlfriend. It's not right. You know, like, I don't like that. If someone's living with a girl, one of my friends, I don't stay there because I don't want to get blamed for things. So I walked over to Tijuana, Mexico. I was so scared. It was too cold in Chicago. I had my walker, and I just told it. I called Uber at 2 in the morning from Glover's house. I'm like, just take me to TJ. I didn't know what to think. All I'm thinking was, I lived in Brazil for years. This can't possibly be worse than Brazil. And it wasn't. And I went over there, and right away I found the boxing gym. This old guy, he's president of all the hotels. He's seen me walking with the walker, and he took me to this hot springs. And then he owns a bunch of hotels, so they let me stay there whenever I want. They give me credits. I pay for a month, and they give me 30 days credit in any of their hotels. So if I go there, like I like training in San Diego, I go to Atos, I go to a lot of cool places. So I don't want to stay in people's houses. So I go to TJ, and if I pay them a month and I only stay a week, when I come back, I'll still have, 23 days credit. And that's how I have it in Playa del Carmen. All my places I stay at, they give me credits. And like, they're not going to move anyone into my room. It's always my room. Wherever I go, they hook me up. And I'm kind of like the dog at people's house. And in third world countries, everyone needs a dog in their house. Because I diffuse things. In these countries...
Good vibes. You're good vibes. You know,
in these countries...
Like, it's just good vibes. It's just, you just bring the vibration. Like vibrations.
A lot of times, like, people come and they don't want to pay their bill. And then I come over, I'm like, hey, man, what's up? Where you from? You might want to pay your bill. They're like, oh, but my credit card's blocked. I'm like, all right. I'm like, they just took pictures of you, dog. I'm like, you're not going to get on an airplane. You got to pay. They're like, well, can you come with me to ATM? I'm like, sure. Just leave your phone here. I'll go with you to ATM. I'm going to take care of it. Like, thanks, man, so much. And these people become my friends the rest of their life. Could have been... They want people not to pay. It's excitement in these countries. Like, oh, okay, these Americans, these Europeans are not going to pay their bill. Cool. Like, they just take pictures of you.
Yeah.
And then you're just walking, and then like...
Yeah.
So I'm very good at... Carlson taught me that. Because Carlson was super confrontational with people. Dude, if he saw like one of those top team guys, he would be like, and go crazy.
Yeah.
And so I love diffusing situations. I think it's like my calling because I can make people laugh. I'm like, hey, man, so what do you do for a living? And they're like, well, they always act like I own Bitcoins. I bought Bitcoins 20 years ago. I'm like, well, you know what? I used to be a hooker. And then if they don't start laughing at that point, things are getting serious. Usually they laugh right there, like, a hooker? I'm like, yeah. And then, well, what do you do now? I'm like, I'm more into ballet. And then they... Because I'm not the biggest guy. I got to be smart. And then I see the boys watching them. And then it works out. And I do that. And then, like, I was in Playa del Carmen, and all the hotels are getting shut down. And I just seen tourists walking around lost. They were just like, where do I go? They weren't letting people fly out. They weren't letting people go back to Europe.
Oh, no
they were
way.
just, and my friends own the Hilton Hotel over there. And, I'm like, come with me, and I got them all big discount. I'm like, first I say, how much do you pay for your hotel you got kicked out of? They're like, $100 a night. I'm like, I'll give you one way better for $50 a night. Come with me. So I brought them all to this hotel. I brought like 100 people in like a week, 2 weeks. And so that hotel hooks me up. I can go over there. And then Bob Marley's son actually owns one of those hotels. So if you're ever around there.
Yeah, for sure.
Puerto Morelos. It's called the Roll Marley Beach House.
I've always wanted to go to Tulum. I've never been to Tulum.
I'm working there on the 19th to the 21st.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're throwing like end of the world parties there now. So I don't work security. I just diffuse situations because Mexico has their own security. Like they want to hurt people. They're like, yeah, let me get them. But it's not good for a party. Jiu-jitsu is so cool because, I mean, you don't have to hurt the person. Right. If the person throws a punch at me, I could just like play with them, knee on the belly, switch sides, go around, do like the Andre Galvao thing to them. Like you could do that to people. Like when he did that, shout out to Andre Galvao. It's still like one of the coolest videos when he like break danced on the guy, then he pushed him over. But you could do that in real life to people.
Yeah, you can totally. And then you're controlling yourself. You're able to stay relaxed in a stressful situation like that.
And then they get up they get up like they want to hit you at that point. Once you let them up, they look at you, they want to hit you. So once you let someone up, be ready for them to swing. But then they're not most of the time. If they swing, then it's just like they're going to get mobbed. It's like the ocean right behind you. And then like I like boxing a lot.
Okay, so you had mentioned about Higgin, his mindset, he gets into your mind.
Higgins the best. Like that guy, I can see why
your mindset.
The Hollywood people love him. Why? Because let me tell you something. He does something to enhance your abilities as a person. So he knows how to build people up in the right way. So I can see why all these people like him because maybe they train with him. Maybe they're not going to be rolling hard. But wherever they go after that, they're going to have confidence. He's like a big brother, Like, man, you got like a big brother. It's like the jock. And he's like, you can do it. You can do it. And then
you trust him, you believe him.
They believe him,
and because of that, you believe in yourself.
And so, like, maybe that little piece of belief makes the guy like $1 million. I don't know exactly, but he does that because a lot of times you see in jiu-jitsu, the coach wants to put the guy in defense, the student.
Right. You were like you're saying with the hockey,
like
analogy. You
don't know nothing. You're a Hollywood. I'm sure people treat them like that, like. If they don't get put in the movie immediately, like he hasn't been training these guys since the Chuck Norris days, and now he's just getting into movies. So think about that. It's like, it's a lot of dedication.
What about your boxing coach?
Boxing coach is Don Cheto. He's in Tijuana, Mexico. He's right over the border. He's the first coach of the Chavez brothers. So like, not the son, the father. They came over from Sinaloa, Mexico, when they were 14. And then he taught them the boxing. Like boxing has 3 elements he taught me. So you have 3 parts. You have the shadow boxing. Okay. Then you have number 2 is like the tools, like example, bag work, like hitting the bags, hitting the mitts, all that stuff. And then you have number 3 is combat. That's the fighting, the sparring. So like the Chavez brothers, he told me they came already with the combat aspect. They were fighting with each other since kids. They're already like, and then he taught them the shadow boxing and how to hit things. So once you have all 3 of those, see, I don't train the combat part. I do mostly shadow boxing. I don't like impact on my neck. Every time I hit something and it stops, it goes right to my spine. So I do shadow boxing important because it keeps you moving. With too much jiu-jitsu, you get stiff. You're just like pulling all the time.
Yeah.
And then the boxing is going to be pushing. So it's the pull and the push. And
that's a good way to put it.
Carlson never trained jiu-jitsu more than 3 days a week. Just because he's an MMA fighter, he have to have his explosion.
Once you get to a certain point,
you got your game.
Because we have the Bang Muay Thai, right? And I my instinct just told me that, like, you got to have both, right?
Yeah.
For that spatial awareness, which is, all the stuff that you were just saying.
All that stuff. I know the Dutch
body mechanics,
kickboxers.
Body mechanics. It's that kind of, it's like Dutch style.
Those are my good friends. Shout out to them. They're like, when I go to Amsterdam, I go to Majiro Gym. This is my friend Andre Menart and Rob Kamen. Good people. They got the best kickboxers as far as the Dutch. I don't think they have like the most competitive school right now because it's all about money. They all go to, I think, Mike's gym.
Right, I've been there. Been to Mike's gym. And then Majiro?
Majiro, that's my friends. So Majiro's like the old one. It hasn't been changed in like 30 years. And that guy's cool. When I got into my car accident, he wears my shirt everywhere. He goes up. He was going up to the monks. Those guys like pray for me. They're super spiritual. Majiro Gym, like, it's one of the greatest places to ever train. Mike's gym is a competitive place. So I think on Saturdays there, they have the open gym there. So people from all the schools go there and they fight and showcase. And if they're good, they get picked up by a manager. It's more cutthroat kickboxing than jiu-jitsu. Like if you get a good student, they're going to go where the money's at. In jiu-jitsu's still cool. You got to know both. But I think you got to learn one at a, I don't know. I'm glad I learned jiu-jitsu first. If you teach a kid and you put him in wrestling class first and then jiu-jitsu, he's always going to be a wrestler. But if you put him in jiu-jitsu first, then wrestling, he's always going to be a jiu-jitsu guy. So I'd rather, if I had kids, I'll put them in jiu-jitsu first.
I agree.
Because I don't want them to be that wrestler that comes in, like, trying to slam everyone. If they get kimura, they quit. You know, so but
jiu-jitsu encompasses everything anyway.
Now the wrestlers are getting better, huh?
Right. But just, you know, like jiu-jitsu has always been like that. Like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right? Like the original Heli Gracie, Carlos Gracie Senior.
Good stuff.
It's like there's some striking in there. There's some, you know, all the stuff is in there. The wrestling, the judo. I mean, it's all in there, you know?
They were telling me, I don't know how true this is, Maeda, they said he actually got his name Count Combat while fighting in Mexico. Because he was traveling around. It was probably in Tijuana. But he was traveling around everywhere because he broke away from Kodokan.
Right.
It was like how Carlson was. He didn't want to wear the gi. He wanted to test his stuff. Carlson, they wanted him to fight with the gi. He fought his first MMA fight with the gi. He took it off and said, "You guys are trying to get me killed. It's too much with a gi on. Imagine fighting one of these wrestlers with a gi on. You just gave them grips."
Yeah.
So we got all that going. As far as my life, I just try to influence people now. Right now I'm doing the WRISTLOCK the World. WRISTLOCKs aren't the only move I know, but they're easy to catch if you have limited mobility. One thing I specialize in, I could beat people and it looks like I'm not even moving because I know how to take away. I know how to split their...
Because a lot of people have limited mobility in their wrists, right? Especially jiu-jitsu, being doing jiu-jitsu for a while. You don't move your hands. You don't move all your... Like we were joking, like the Armenians and probably the Greek, like the dancing, right? They're not... Their mobility in their hands or their wrists stay good, right?
Yeah, because in those countries, I think they dance with their hands because they don't want to move their hips.
Yeah.
So, you know, like in those countries, if you're moving your hips, you get like in trouble. So they move their hands. I know how that goes. I dance the same way, WRISTLOCKs are cool. And I mean, I'm just trying to teach everyone to WRISTLOCK because the world's trying to WRISTLOCK us right now. This is like, I think the WRISTLOCK is one of the best moves post-pandemic. I think, and my videos from BJ Fanatics are like #1 sellers.
Nice, good.
Trying to push the other ones, but I always just like tell them WRISTLOCK the world. But I got some basics ones.
I don't see anybody else.
Nah. Fredson knows them. We learned them from Osvaldo Alves. Fredson knows all of us.
Fredson Pachon. Fredson Pachon, I competed against him. He WRISTLOCKed. He tried to WRISTLOCK me. I competed against him in the absolute when he was like the top purple belt. And he tried to. I have to brag about it, just because.
Did you beat him or no?
I did in Laborio. That's when Laborio started paying attention to me because he was the top and I beat him, but he WRISTLOCKed me. And I just took it, and I got out of it. But man, my wrist hurt for another 10 years after that.
Bone.
At least 10 years.
You see this bone over here?
Yeah.
That's from. Feel that real quick. That's from Fredson.
Yeah, Fredson Pachon.
Yeah, Fredson. I'm gonna see him in a couple days.
What a beast, man! If he ever comes to LA, man, I'd love to get him on the show too.
Yeah, Fredson's my good friend.
Yeah, he's such an icon, man. To me, you know, when I was like, I watched him, like, you know, the ice cream sales guy and the sales kid.
That's what he used to do. He used to sell him.
He went straight from purple to black belt. He was the best purple belt in the world.
He beat Ted at that point.
Yeah, he was. Oh my God, he was like the best.
But he moved over here. He's got married.
Yeah, you know.
He doesn't depend on fighting.
I know. Yeah.
Some people they have.
He's training Dana White, right? Dana White's family.
He's got it good. He's over there. Thank God for that because. I brought Fredson over, actually. He was in Brazil. He called me up. He's like, "Pete, man, I got to get out of here." I'm like, "No problem." I sent him a ticket, and that was it. And then he came to Chicago. It was too damn cold.
Too cold, yeah.
The dude was like, I swear, I was putting his heat on in his room. You know what I was putting on? Take a guess. 90 degrees.
He's from the Amazon.
I had it.
Can you imagine?
90.
Like for us, like, I mean, me being, you know, New Mexico, okay, it gets cold, but Man, if you're from the Amazon and that's all you know.
90 degrees, I put it on. We don't put on 70, 75. Put it on 90. All right.
And that's cold for him, 90. Mm-hmm. That's cold for him.
Cold. I mean, you walk in there.
Like 5 a.m., it's like, you know, it's like 100 degrees in the Amazon. So, and that's in the winter. So
I send Fredson, I forgot exactly how. Oh, there was a girl that trained us, and she lived in Vegas. And Fred's like, what do you think? I'm like, go there now, dude. And I knew some people from the UFC, and then he knew them. I'm friends with the people from the UFC really, like, a lot because of Carlson. Because before, Carlson had a lot of influence in the UFC. I mean, their matches were boring after Hoist, and he brought Vitor, so they loved him for that.
Vitor.
After that, it was going...
Bustamante, all the guys.
But then it got so boring. Then Carlson started training a blue belt at our school. What's his name? Stefan Bonner. And UFC was dying. And then Stefan was just a blue belt. He knew one move. It was just a Kimura. It's all he knew. He had pretty good boxing, but he had Carlson behind him.
Yeah.
You could do it.
That's it.
You could do it. You could do it.
He saved the UFC.
And he went in
saved
there
the
and
UFC. That's why this.
UFC.
Yeah.
And so there's another one. And I swear to God, that was Carlson fighting that night.
Right?
That was Carlson.
Like, people get put into other people.
He know how to do that, Carlson. Like, I'm telling you, like, give Carlson your
because you talked about Higgins giving you that
same type of thing.
But I think, like, man, Carlson, like,
it was another level.
He was another level. Like, you could, when I was on the opposite side,
you felt
even when
it.
You feel it.
You feel it.
You're like,
oh,
man,
shit,
that's
you're
like
fighting
you're fighting him
and him, and you know if you win by cheating, there's gonna be fucked up shit. Like, he's gonna challenge your team. He's gonna come to your school. You know, Carlson gave out a red belt. You know, Carlson didn't follow any of that stuff. There's a guy named Aaron LaPointe at my school. He's one of my good friends. He has one arm, all right? Like, he had a standing ovation match against Carlson Gracie. He's really good. And Carlson just pulled out 4 stripes on him one day. He's like, you're 4-3 black belt. That's it. There was no, he's like, I'm not going to ask Carlinos how to promote my students. And so that's why I learned, like, you can do things your own rules. I mean, the guy has one arm, training his whole life, not scared to go against anyone. Carlson put him, boom, 4th degree, like that. Who's gonna say anything to him? So that was cool. He followed his and then he did Osvaldo. Osvaldo, he gave red belt. Osvaldo's one of his best guys.
That's cool. And I think about that. You know, it's that's how he feels about him. And having Carlson Gracie, you can take it off or whatever, or not have it wear it when you train, but the fact that Carlson Gracie gave you 4th degrees and like that's how he feels about you, what that does for your confidence and for your self-esteem.
The guy's great. The guy's
till your last breath, right?
To your last breath.
You're never going to forget that feeling, and you're going to keep that with you.
And Carlson always, when he does something extreme, he always backed it up. So example, when he told the whole Gracie family, Hicks and everybody, I'm giving Osvaldo a red belt. He was only 50 years old. I'm giving him a red belt. And if anyone in the family has a problem or anyone in the family has a student, come to the belt promotion and beat him. And no one showed up. And he gave him like a month and a half advance. So I just did that. I have a student that's Russian. His name is Sergey. And he's a Sambo expert. And he trained with us for like 2 years in Chicago. Then he had to move away. He's in Canada. And I'm like, Sergey, do you ever train with the gi? He's like, yeah, when child, kid. I'm like, Sergey, so what's your deal? He's like, man is man, fight is fight. He's tough, this kid. So he's got K1 level kickboxing and great Sambo and my jiu-jitsu. So I promoted him the other day online because I felt bad. Like, the guy's been training a long time. He's a beast. And I look at some of these black belts and I'm like, no way. So I gave him online. I said, you know what? I'm probably never going to see you. I said, are you a black belt? He's like, no, I don't have a belt. Well, I'm like, well, you're a black belt today. I'm promoting you. And I put a challenge to anyone in IBGF champion or Abu Dhabi champion at 185. They have a problem, you give him a black belt, fight him. No one stepped up. No one wants to fight this guy. Because he's like I said, man, you're, no way. So I got him fighting now in bare knuckle fighting championships. He's been off the grid. He's Russian. These guys go off the grid, you know. He doesn't need to fight. He just wants to fight now. But these guys have money.
So Carlson Gracie, like, another level of mindset, and that's the That's my instinct. That's the feeling I would get being on the opposite side of the mat.
You're on opposite, so you understand how it goes.
So yeah, how strong his force was, you know. What about Carlos Gracie Jr.?
So cool. That guy is like, dude, I feel like I get like, what's the word you're looking for? He's smart. He's calm. Carlson yelling. You know,
Yeah, hothead. Yeah, passionate.
Carlinhos thinking everything before he says anything to you. It's like all calculated. And then like we used to go Pedra de Gavia.
Yeah.
And then we go
The
eat
hike.
the papayas. And then I would see him all the time because I would always go with my girl to the movies. When you train that much, like you really can't go out too much. You like go take a nap and Saturday night, just go to the movies, and I always see him, no matter what. He's always sitting there. It's like Carlinhos, you can always find him at the local movie theater on the weekend. He's cool. Like, he's a smart dude. Like, you get smart around him. He'll give you a piece of advice, you probably make $1 million off it. But yeah, I miss him. I would definitely go visit him. He reminds me a lot of Roger. I just had visited Roger. That was another coincidence. I was in England teaching. I was like, man, I'm in England. I got to go see Roger. And I show up there, and everyone was acting like it was a special day. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. Oh, yeah, the gym just opened today. Today's our inauguration. Thank you so much for coming. I had no idea. It was the most beautiful gym I've ever seen in my life. And him and his dad, if you've never seen them teach before, you got to see that. It's crazy. I've never seen a connection like that with father and son on a mat. Like his dad's like wrist locking him. His dad loves wrist locks. And Roger, as good as he is, as soon as I walked in, he looked at me, he goes, the wrist lock king, and he wrist locked the guy. I told Roger, I'm like, look, I just had neck surgery. I need to roll with you. I need to. I said, because if I could roll with you, I'm not gonna be scared of anybody. So like that was my thing. So I just had my spine surgery, doing a little bit better, and go to England. And Roger beat the dog shit out of me. He mounted me, and he wanted me to tap from pressure so bad I wouldn't do that. He had me in the armbar, sitting on my solar plexus for like 30 seconds. Maybe
His mount, huh? His mount is
He's
another level.
There giggling. He's giggling like, and I'm looking at him like, there's no way I'm tapping the pressure, dude. I'm a black belt. I can't do that. It's ridiculous. I'll go home and just like, you can't do that. You'd rather die than tap the pressure, you know? And then I wouldn't tap. And then he finally took my arm. But yeah, then that boosted my confidence. After I rolled with him, I'm like, dude. And he's like, yeah, you're smart. Because like, that dude just tossed me around like a rag doll. I don't even know what he did. I postured. He breaks my grips, brings my arm across me.
I remember like all the senior guys, like, you know, my Draculino and all the guys, like I've known him because I was with them all in Miami back. I think I stayed in Miami at this house, and his wife at the time, her brother was good friends with Hadra. So Hadra was a blue belt at the time. And you always, you know, the years go by, and of course he starts to rise in the ranks. And something that I always took, that he was very coachable, always humble, you know.
So cool.
Yeah, so humble and always coachable, which is like, you know, you become like the best, you know, multiple-time world champion, but still coachable, right?
He acts like Carlinhos a little bit.
Yeah, he's like really wise, yeah.
They're very like that. You know, they both have a similar game. I used to roll with them a lot, and they both do the same type of thing from the closed guard. And then their mounts are the same. It's the same type of mount. You're like, are you seriously doing that to me? And it's pretty cool. Like, he comes up and like postures up when he mounts on you, and the minute you already start trying to push him away, he's already back down low. Yeah. And he comes back up like, ah. And then he does one. The newest one I seen him do was usually when people like posture up on me and they mount on me, I can push him away and get him to fall back a little bit. So as soon as he comes up and I start pushing him, he starts squeezing his knees. So every time I push, he just goes, and like, oh, and I push again, and he's like, oh. His mount's the best. There's so much going on right there. And Egan taught a lot to Roger passing. They're really tight. I like I'm pretty much like some type of Gracie. I get my house in Mexico. Believe it or not, there was Gracie's there.
The dog, everybody's dog. I'm the Gracie dog.
I swear to God, look at
the Gracie's dog.
I'm the Gracie.
all of them, the whole family.
All of them. So I'm over there on, well, put it this way, where I live in Playa del Carmen, they have black belts every day there. I walk around the beach with my gi every morning, meet everyone. Like Oleg Tektarov's there right now. We're hanging out with him. On Christmas, Rose Gracie's sister was there, Hayani Gracie. She's the older one.
Yeah.
I never met her before, but I can tell. She has like the Gracie tattoos. I called up Rose. I'm like, Rose, Merry Christmas. I'm on FaceTime. I'm like, I think your sister or someone's here to say hi. And I go up there. I'm like, you guys don't know me, but this is your sister. She wants to say hi.
Yeah.
They're like, what the
Yeah, it's fine. Man, you mentioned like Carlson Gracie, like, you know, like 1, 2, 3 moves right now, like 7 steps, you know. Simple, precise, always attacking.
And big surprises. He's been to that. It's not always 1, 2, 3. There's always a big surprise from every move. So you got to have like grande surpresa. You always got to have those from every position
big surprise,
too.
Yeah.
That's like Shoni Carter is like all his moves are big surprises. You don't need it like that. You just need like good basics.
We had a Maury Bitech here and Mario Sperry. And I was blown away. I mean, Mario Sperry was like his intensity and just his mindset. You feel it, right? But then Maury Bitech too, just the moves that he showed, I was kind of blown away.
He does a lot of Osvaldo. I used to train Amaury like every day. See, Osvaldo Alves, we trained 10 hours a day at that point in time. I don't think now. We would start at 6 in the morning. It would be me, Andre Galvao, Jacare, Fredson, Bibiano Fernandez. That was it. And it was hard training. I mean, we become jiu-jitsu zombies. That's why it was too much.
Yeah.
Like we get to the point where like we wouldn't even fight each other hard because we're just like, all right, dude. Like if we keep training like this, we're gonna die. So we would just like we would hold back a little bit till a visitor would show up. A visitor would always show up. It'd always be like in Brazil, you can't really believe people that show up to your gym. Like they're gonna be like, oh, I haven't trained in a while, and they're gonna have a black belt that looks like all beaten up. Those are dudes like we wrist locked. Osvaldo Alves, like right away, he'd give him the first one. Andre Galvao was a blue belt at that time. He'd be like, oh, vai com a faixa azul. You know, like just say it random. Let's go with this. Go with this. You know, when the black belts would come in, black belts always come. Osvaldo Alves, you're like a secret gym. There's like 6 people in the middle of like some like, it's like the little ghetto area right there. And people always want to see what's up. We have like, they're not random people that walk in there. They're walking in there to test. So then we always put him, Andre Galvao, first match. I don't give a shit. I don't care how good of a black belt or Andre Galvao blue belt is going to give them major problems. He might even tap them. And then Osvaldo's going to be like, oh, I was purple belt. Go with the American. He's American. And then I'll give it to him. That point in time, I don't care how good the black belt was. After going me and Galvao, he's tired. And then we feed him to Fredson. If Fredson didn't snap their wrist, Jacare.
Oh my God. I don't know how. Like I knew he was gonna do a wrist lock on. I knew he was gonna do a wrist lock, and he still did it. I couldn't believe it.
And then if they made it through Fredson, then they go to Jacare. And then it's too much. I don't think no one made it that far. Nobody.
You either never come back again.
Never.
Like,
no, because he
come
will
back
throw
again,
you. He would do.
Or you come back and you become great.
Jacare he's the first person I was scared to train with, because like we have to warm up doing judo. You know how scary it is to do judo with that guy? It's too scary because you're like, wait a minute. This, like, he just starts getting a little mad. He can throw you on your neck. Yeah. It's too much. Like, they'd always put me to be like Ochikome with Jacare. I'm like...
Yeah, I went to the Amazon one time, and I went to the Enrique Machado's gym, you know? Yeah.
That's his coach, I think.
Yeah, I was his coach, his judo coach in jiu-jitsu.
But they're judo first. Jacare, to me, is judo, then jiu-jitsu. You know, like, it's whatever you learn first, that's what you... It's in the UFC like that.
He had the Abu Dhabi trophy, you know, in his living room, you know. Jacare gave it to him. Whoa. That was cool. Like those things, it was cool. It was like
Jacare was the best at that
You know,
point.
you only get one of those, right? You only get one trophy.
Who gave it to him?
Jacare gave it to Enrique Machado.
Oh.
He's like, you know, it's like years
Raised
already.
him. He raised him.
Yeah, he basically was already living in Rio, and he was gone from Amazon, I think, at that point, you know, right?
Yeah, he was.
But he made sure he gave, you know, he's like, here.
Most of the guys from my team went to Terere after that. Terere would come to Osvaldo Alves too. He's friends with us. They would always call Osvaldo Miyagi. And but Terere was cool because after Osvaldo, we were training like too much. We started, like our bodies were hurt. We walk around like zombies. Then you go to Terere, it's a whole different feel. Like we tell him we train at 6 in the morning. He's like, dude, I sleep at 6 in the morning. He's like, like we train like at noon, dog. You know, like.
I'm gonna ask you about the Carlson Gracie Jr. because you had mentioned Carlson style. So what are your? I'm just curious on your thoughts because you've been around to all the.
Gracie Barra has the best guards. You know what I mean?
Best guards.
No matter what, like if you want to learn how to pass the guard, you have to train there. There's no way. Like Gracie Barra has good guards. I'm not talking about half guards. I'm talking about. You're trying to pass, and they're gonna push you away, and they're gonna recompose.
You had Gordo, you had all these different styles, right? Spider guards, like.
But I'm saying the overall repositioning of the guard from Gracie Barra is very difficult to deal with. You know what I mean?
And
like,
Carlson was definitely a lot of top heavy game, right?
We're top heavy.
Like Laboria was like the only guard player, right? Out of that. There's De La Hiva.
They have other ones. But
of the old school generation.
The best guard player from Carlson was Casio Cardozo, the guy I was talking about. He's the one. So he was an original student of Holes Gracie. He started training at 14 years old, and then after 6 months, see, Holes and Carlson had their gym together. Holes was the best guy of the Gracie Academy, but he would come over to Carlson's and cross train. And there was a guy named Cicero that would beat Holes. He's really good. And Holes is like, tell it to Carlson, like, I want to get better. You know, I can't just train, because I think he was teaching like self-defense and stuff at that point. And so Carlson, you can come to my gym, no problem. And there was another guy that used to beat up on Holes. His name was Sergio Ides, Sergio de Niterói. He was Carlson's first black belt. And Sergio, his first match as a black belt, guess who he was against? He beat Horian Gracie.
Oh, wow.
Horian was the best one before Holes. And so
right away. His firstborn, right?
Yeah, so right away, think about
firstborn.
Carlson leaves them, makes his first black belt, and beats him in the end, like final seconds with a double leg. So think about that. Gracies were all into like judo tosses.
Right.
This dude Bayanas him. They call it Bayana.
Double leg.
Double-legged him and beat him. And so then Casio was like, no way, I don't want to train with Holes. I want to train with you, Carlson. So Carlson was like, man, I got this 14-year-old kid, leva muito jeito. He's very good. And Carlson was the last person to train with this kid. So he would close the door and spar with this kid. It was his last person he created by rolling.
Wow.
And Casio got his black belt in like 4 years at that point in time.
Oh, wow.
By 19, he's black belt, and he beat a lot of the Gracie members. I don't even want to talk names because they're all my friends, but he beat all of them. There wasn't one to beat him. And he was always supposed to go against Hickson, and De La Hiva was supposed to go, but De La Hiva would get like hemorrhoids and stuff. I don't know. Like to fight Hoyler, he would never do it. But Casio was always game. He was a little bit smaller. And Casio had fought the best guy from Hickson, which is Hickson's #1 training partner was Marcelo Bering. And so they have a cool match. Jiu-Jitsu was different back then. It was just all smashing and stuff.
Yeah.
So like if you have good, now it's different. They get up and
It's more dynamic and stuff.
It's dynamic. Back then it was like, so Casio has that good guard as far as like pushing away, circling the legs. He has a guarda classica, the collar and sleeve. And Gracie Barra has that. Great, like I said, dude, if you don't train at Gracie Barra back then, you'll have no way of passing guards.
Yeah.
That's why I learned how to pass the guard.
Yeah.
I knew how to pass, but like, you know how good these guards are. When you try and pass, they roll away, come back.
Right.
That's one of their best moves at Gracie Barra, period, as far as like,
retention.
they go back, they turn away, and then they come back and open their legs and triangle people. Yeah. That's what the guy, I think, Veyo does. A lot of them teach that. And if you didn't train there, and then Pejapano started doing it with the sleeve.
Right.
Screwing.
That's the kind of guard I play, like the cross guard, you know?
Yeah,
but
so
he ate so long and so like big that you couldn't stop it.
Couldn't stop it, right? And I know all those guys, Cabellino. I'm part of this family as much as they. I don't really have too much of a family, so I made jiu-jitsu my family because my dad lives in Greece.
Yeah.
My mom's my mom. She just wanted me happy. She didn't want me getting picked on and stuff. And jiu-jitsu pretty much. That's all I think about. And so I get along with Glover. He's one of the few people I can like talk about jiu-jitsu all day, every single day. And yeah, he loves jiu-jitsu too, this crazy guy.
Yeah.
And he don't like me living away from him. He gets pissed. So like he doesn't like sharing me. So if I'm not all in with him, I'm 100% out. But even the Wu-Tang splits apart. But he helped my game a lot because
He's amazing.
with my neck being injured, I always played half guard. But this guy got the half guard down. As far as a deep half guard,
Yeah.
dude, we're all like, you already know you got the omoplata. Like everyone knows that you do cross sleeve and everything.
I did half
Omoplata.
guard. I was one of the first guys to do deep half, actually.
Really?
Yeah. In the late 90s, I started, 98, I started doing deep half. I didn't have a name yet,
Yeah.
I called it like Fat Man Roll.
I
would use it to roll really big guys, and I was a lighter weight guy.
There you go. Yeah, and then like the first time I seen Spider Guard was Draculino. See, because Pocket Tao was my good friend. He passed away at all the videos.
Yeah,
now
yeah,
a lot of people are claiming like his videos, but they're his videos.
Yeah, for sure.
He was
the guy.
Carlson.
That's how I would get my footage.
That was
I
Carlson's
would have
best
to chase him
friend.
down, yeah.
He would be like, Pocket Tao, you're going to film. He became the filmer. Then Pocket Tao got sad because Gracie Barra banned him from filming.
Right.
And then, whatever. But
Yeah.
Pocket Tao was cool. He has all the cool stuff, and that's where I would learn. And I remember the first video I had, one of the few ones, beginner ones I had was the one on the beach with Hoist against Waleed. But you've seen a lot of good matches on that. You had Draculino doing a spider guard. Who did he go against that time? You remember?
Draculino versus who?
He was on the beach when Hoist fought.
Parompino.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I think he won, right?
He lost, actually, that match.
But he did great
Yeah,
guard.
it was, yeah. Parompino, I think it was like an advantage or whatever.
Pampina is pretty cool. He's best friends with Bitesh.
Yeah, we're Batish. We all had dinner together at the Master Worlds, and it's amazing, man. So much respect, so much just gratitude, they like, and I think Draculino was always friends with everybody, but
Always.
you see that like the rivals, like they're like closer, they're like, because they brought out the best in each other, right? But it's just so cool to see that.
But that's why I seen the spider guard, because Carlson Jr., he likes Draculino. He's like, look, you want to learn spider guard?
Yeah,
you study this guy.
Yeah.
If you want to learn half guard,
Soka,
you study.
Draculino, Chinguia.
Soka, like, I used to train a lot with him. He had like the best Toriano pass.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He was the one that showed me how to stuff the legs forward, not to bring them down.
Right.
You stuff them forward.
And then to the side, yeah.
That dude's like one of the funnest people ever to train with,
Yeah.
I used to go with his school
So
in
technical, yeah.
Recreo.
Yeah.
And I think Sapao was there. He was there too. He would do crazy stuff. I would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He'd like grab my lapel and go upside down. It's too much.
We gotta go down in a couple minutes. I just wanted to ask you one last question.
Sir.
What are you most grateful for all these years?
The friendships and I'd say the connections I'm able to make with people through jiu-jitsu is I feel like, shoot, if I can find them here on earth, we'll find each other in the next place. Jiu-jitsu is so cool. There's, like I said, and if I kind of like disrespect anyone, let me disrespect myself. F you, Pete. So hopefully I didn't. I try to keep it real, and hey, sometimes you get people mad, sometimes you get people glad. But the number one thing is this: WRISTLOCK the world. Ha! And I didn't invent wristlocks, but I will inspire you guys to do it. And if you want, check out my videos, BJJ Fanatics. They're always on sale. And you could just Google WRISTLOCK the world, and you'll find me, Pete the Greek. And thank you so much, Alberto
Thank you,
Crane.
brother. You're the man.
You're the man.
Loved you, man.
Hey, we're all men.
Yeah, right.
And we're here to
met each other at the in the line, the crazy line in Miami, right? Miami or Orlando, one of those.
All of
90,
them. Yeah, both 99 and 2000.
Like, people have no people have no idea how long those lines were.
me and Carlson Jr. got into a car accident. dude.
How long and how many hours we waited there.
It was, but you know what? It's all the same friends from that line.
Right.
You'll see all those people. Anyone in that line that you remember, still training right
all
now.
black belts.
They didn't go nowhere.
If you waited until the end.
If you waited till that line, forget about it. You're a 5th degree by now. 4th degree, at least 3rd. If you're in that line, you're at least 3rd degree black belt right now.
Right on, brother.
All right, brother. Hey, God bless.